Before we get started with the video, I'd quickly like to give a shout out to my awesome patrons, Mark, Dom, and Hunter. If you'd like to be part of the awesome community on Patreon and also get some perks, information about plans and tiers will be below. Even though it is early, since there's been some rather interesting trade rumors as of late, I decided to do this video. As most of us know, the trade deadline isn't until this spring. However, it's highly possible, due to various circumstances, that we could see a good trade or two soon. In this video, we're going to go over a handful of players that could be on the move here shortly. We'll be addressing their specific situations and which destinations make sense for them in particular. And with that, here are 5 NHL players who could be on the move here shortly. For Connor McDavid and the Oilers, the season so far has already brought with it some uncertainty. After they witnessed an unfortunate turn of events unfold surrounding Evander Kane, the assumption was that they would be needing a replacement for the forward. Kane, who was an instant fit in Edmonton, was averaging nearly a point per game with 13 in 14 games played prior to his horrific ordeal. Therefore, knowing that Kane isn't expected to return for at least 3 to 4 months, and that the Oilers are in cup or bust mode, it's possible that GM Ken Holland will be testing the markets. One player that was connected to the Oilers quite a bit last season was Vladimir Tarasenko. Since submitting his trade request in the offseason of 2021, Tarasenko has been in and out of trade rumors on a routine basis. However, last season, in particular, the forward went to work in an effort to boost his trade value, as he notched over a point per game, with 82 in 75 games played. Thus far in this campaign, Tarasenko has been one of the brighter spots on the struggling Blues roster. Therefore, knowing that he could hypothetically supply a steady stream of offense, NHL insiders have logically been tying him to Edmonton. Recently, TSN analyst Pierre LeBrun reasoned that even though Kane won't be out of the lineup for the entire season, that the Oil could use another top 6 forward regardless. Even though he does have a no trade clause on his contract, knowing that his trade request hasn't been rescinded, the opportunity to play with Connor McDavid would probably give Tarasenko something to ponder. As a pending UFA that's set to come off his 8-year, $60 million deal this summer, Tarasenko will most certainly stay in the rumor mill if he's not traded shortly. Another season, another slow start for Vancouver. For me personally, it seemed like deja vu, witnessing Canucks jerseys being thrown onto the ice again in the season's infancy. While some are calling this a full-blown tank job for Connor Bedard, others are suspecting some shake-up trades are on the horizon. And one of the players that's been in and out of trade rumors here recently is next captain Bo Horvat. Drafted by Vancouver, BC has been Horvat's home for his entire NHL career, considering the fact that he is indeed a pending UFA with a reasonable cap hit of $5.5 million. This could be something that attracts potential suitors. And really, Horvat himself has been doing everything, inadvertently or not, in his power to raise his trade value, as the forward currently has been averaging over a point per game with 20 in 18 games played, with 14 of those being goals, mind you. Even though he's not the flashiest player out there, Horvat could bring some offensive stability and leadership abilities to any potential team he lands with. Since Dylan Larkin and GM Steve Yzerman are reportedly at a standstill while considering a potential extension, the idea is that Horvat would be able to assume Larkin's position if he does indeed sign elsewhere this offseason. However, insider Nick Keprios said that he believes that even if the Wings and their captain are able to come to an agreement, that the Horvat acquisition could very well still come to fruition. As most of us know, the Wings have been doing their due diligence in recent years when it comes to drafting and nurturing prospects. Therefore, if GM Patrick Allvin did try and deal Horvat to the Motor City, he would most likely be given a profitable return. Hey everyone, Alyssa Hope here. I'd quickly like to talk to you about Liquid IV. With the holidays fastly approaching, Liquid IV is offering a 25% off discount on their products until November 28th. They have products for sleep, energy, immune support, and obviously hydration. So if you're thinking about having a few drinks or planning to be on the go, check out their site and be sure to use my promo code AlyssaHope in all caps to receive the 25% off discount. Thanks for watching, and let's go Pens! For most of the last season, it was apparent that Kasperi Kapanen wasn't the same player that he was when he arrived in Pittsburgh. After scoring an impressive 20 goals throughout the 2018-19 campaign, Kapanen, who was initially drafted by Pittsburgh, found himself in the Steel City for a second time in 2020. However, as I alluded to, the forward struggled immensely last campaign. Not only was his shooting percentage nearly half of what it was in the season before, but his points per game dropped drastically as well. Once the current season began, many were hoping that Kapanen would return with the same talent that allowed him to be drafted in the first round. However, just like last campaign, Kapanen quickly found himself being a healthy scratch on multiple occasions due to his performance. So far, after 13 games played, the forward has only been able to muster up 5 points throughout. For GM Ron Hextall, the 2-year $6.4 million contract that he gave his player last offseason is probably one that in hindsight he'd like to redo. Considering his recent performance, dealing Kapanen's contract isn't going to be an easy feat. If Hextall doesn't put the forward on waivers, then a trade is the next best option. A couple teams that make sense to entertain are the Arizona Coyotes and the Vancouver Canucks. Firstly, we all know that the Coyotes are all about taking in those bad contracts for draft picks. If the Penguins were able to produce a second or third round pick per se for 2024 or 2025, even this could entice GM Bill Armstrong to bite. And secondly, there's the Vancouver Canucks. While this may seem rather puzzling, GM Patrick Allvin and President Jim Rutherford both came from the Steel City, with first-hand experience with Kapanen himself. And if you know anything about Rutherford in particular, then you'll know he absolutely loves the Kapanen family. Not only did he draft Kasperi and trade for him yet again, but he also, years ago, selected his father Sammy. Therefore, knowing that Ty Smith and P.O. Joseph, as we like to call him in Pittsburgh, have been of interest to Vancouver before this, could be an option for the return. One of the most surprising players of the season thus far has been defenseman Erik Carlson. Carlson, who was underwhelming at the start of his tenure in the Bay Area, has revitalized his career for the better here recently. With an astounding 28 points in just 19 games played, Carlson, at the time this video is being made, is tied with Leon Draisaitl for second in the league in points. Even though Sharks GM Mike Grier has to be thrilled that Carlson is now earning his contract, his intentions to keep the defenseman appear to be slim. Following the trade of Brent Burns in the offseason, the speculation was that Grier would still carry over the same sentiment that Doug Armstrong once had, in that he would be willing to move Carlson if the right offer came along. And indeed, here recently, according to Mercury News, the GM said that he would be open to entertaining offers on the former Norris recipients. This has all transpired while Carlson's former team, the Ottawa Senators, has been struggling with consistency. Even though Carlson does have a full no-move clause built into his contract, and according to Grier, is happy in San Jose, there's been speculation that a return to Ottawa may be something he'd be open to. NHL insider Elliot Friedman had this to say about the potential trade. "I think those conversations have happened between the Sharks and the Senators. I believe the two teams have talked about it," he says. The only hurdle standing in the way if Carlson does want to return is obviously his contract. With 4 more seasons remaining with a cap hit of $11.5 million on the deal, the only realistic option seems to be finding a third-party team to eat some of the salary. Even though it does seem like a stretch to consider the trade, from an entertainment standpoint, it's still fun to speculate on. Since Mike Hoffman is now in Montreal, and the Senators' ownership is changing hands, could Carlson soon return to where it all began? For Patrick Kane, coming into this season, the speculation of his ultimate departure from Chicago being on the horizon has never been greater. Since the Blackhawks sold the farm per se last campaign, with the exception of Kane, Jonathan Toews, and Seth Jones, the overall feeling is that Kane will be most likely to be traded among them, and for good reason, as Kane was one of the few bright spots last season that the Hawks had to offer. Following only 78 games played, Showtime, as he's known, was able to notch 92 points throughout. Even though he's not at a point-per-game pace thus far this campaign, GMs throughout the league know that Kane's talent level is still up there with the best. Currently, a pending UFA, Kane carries a $10.5 million cap hit. Despite this though, if a prospective team was able to get creative enough, his remaining money owed wouldn't be hard to produce. And instead of hearing someone entertaining the New York Rangers for the umpteenth time, I thought it'd be more interesting to talk about the possibility of Edmonton acquiring him instead. As I previously mentioned, the Oilers have a legitimate need within their top six, whether it be Vladimir Tarasenko or Patrick Kane. Either forward could easily be effective in theory, alongside either Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl. Even though they won't have the cap relief from the other Kane, aka Evander Forever, GM Ken Holland could try another route. If they were able to persuade a team such as Arizona to retain some of Kane's salary, the cap hit would be easier to take on. Offering up a first rounder to Chicago, Warren Foegele, and a couple of prospects just might be the kind of package that could entice GM Carl Davidson in the end.